Okay, hi everyone, welcome. If it's your first time joining us, please let us know. Welcome to the living room. My name is Maggie and I'm a consultant with Christina T. Miller Sustainable Jewelry Consulting. We provide strategy, guidance, and education on responsible sourcing and sustainability for the jewelry industry. If you'd like to find out more about us, I'll share the link to our website here in the chat. And yeah, thank you for joining this living room session. We're almost at the 1 year mark of starting these living rooms, and they're informal virtual hangouts meant to support community and connection on issues related to responsible sourcing in jewelry. And so we cover different topics every month, and we love to hear from everyone in terms of feedback on the sessions and ideas that you'd like to discuss in future sessions. We started this as a way to stay connected during the pandemic, but it's turned into a really nice group to be with at least once a month. And so we're keeping these sessions going. Here's the link if you'd like to submit feedback or any ideas you'd like to discuss. So thank you to everyone who showed up for this conversation. We're going to cover some interesting updates on artisanal and small scale gold today. Thank you to those of you who contributed through the pay what you want option. We really appreciate it, and it helps make these sessions possible. So thanks for helping us keep these going. So just a few housekeeping things. We are recording and this video will be posted publicly. So you are welcome to speak up and ask questions, or feel free to put them in the chat, just with the knowledge that this will be shared. And if you are private messaging in the chat, please keep it kind. And yeah, let us know if you have any questions throughout the session. We're happy to ask them to our guests here. Okay, one other thing is, we also want to make sure that those of you who are attending the living room sessions are getting our updates in terms of the takeaways from the session and finding out about next month's session. So if you aren't subscribed to our email list, please do so you don't miss anything. And we'll share the link for that as well. And our next living room will be April 23rd, if you want to mark your calendars for that. Let me just get that email sign up for everyone. Okay, so today we have Jonathan Gonzalez from the Alliance for Responsible Mining to share some information about the work that ARM is doing and the impacts they're having. We are also supposed to have Roberto Alvarez here and Ana Maria Sierra, so we're just waiting for them to come into the room, but I'll go ahead and turn it over to Christina to get us started. Maybe we can go straight to speaking with Jonathan. And all right.
I think let's do that while we're waiting on Roberto and Ana. Jonathan, if you're ready. One of the things that we thought would be, let's give a little preface. So last session, we were really trying to work together to unpack the benefits and challenges of recycled gold. So keeping in mind that recycled gold is readily available kind of in the marketplace, and what it does and doesn't do. And in the end, we started pointing in the direction of ASM gold and sourcing from artisanal and small scale gold mining communities. And as part of that, there are a lot of questions around various options. When do miners actually benefit? What does the premium, this extra amount that jewelers see and then customers see on the thing, what does that go toward? What does that signify? How do I sell based on that premium? And so what we thought today was that Fairmined could give a little bit of background. This is one particular sourcing model and this is a certification. It's a very high-end certification of small scale and artisanal gold mines. And that certification kind of and traceability comes all the way through from the mine to you. So Jonathan's going to share a little bit more about that. And later in the program, we're also going to talk about a consumer report that Christina T. Miller Consulting commissioned from MVEye Marketing. And ARM was a sponsor, as was Rio Grande. And we want to share that with you because part of our work here collectively in these meetings is to start to put forward some common language that we can all be using that isn't necessarily tied to a particular source or origin of ASM Gold, but that it is very much about how you can support the people on the ground as a jeweler through your gold sourcing, so that we're open. The Fairmined system is very established, and it's one that we can all learn from. If you're not involved in it already, we can all learn from it. So I'm going to hand it over to Jonathan so he can share some slides with us and give us a little briefing. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Maggie, for the invitation. And thank you, all of you, for being here. I'm glad to see familiar faces as well. Yesterday, we had the Fairmined Actors meeting, so I see some of you that also attended to that meeting yesterday, Anna, Dana, for example. So, well, to all of you, greetings from amazing, beautiful Colombia, which is where we are located, the Alliance for Responsible Mining. And I wanted to start with that clarification, and I'm going to share screens real quick, because we talk about the Alliance for Responsible Mining, and then we go back and talk about Fairmined. So what is ARM, what is Fairmined, right? So I wanted to take a moment to clarify that, because whenever we talk about Fairmined, we are talking about the great job and the great work of ARM as a nonprofit organization that started here in Colombia around 15 years ago with the goal to transform artisanal and small-scale mining into force for good and something positive rather than something that has been associated with so many negative issues. So Fairmined, it's not an actual organization. It's a certification standard from the Alliance for Responsible Mining, or ARM, that transformed into an initiative, and now that initiative allows us to bring more actors to this amazing task. So to talk about what we do, our goal, as I say, to transform ASM into a force for good, then we always have like all of these concepts floating around. So we talk about responsibility, sustainability, and ethics. And every time we go to a webinar like this, then we talk about these terms. So for us, what does that mean? So definitely in terms of responsibility, it's being accountable for something, and that's the mining organizations, but also everyone involved in the supply chain of the gold industry, and yes, all initiatives around that. When we talk about sustainability, and as we all know, doing everything we can to, you know, for our needs in the present, but without compromising the needs of future generations. And with sustainability, usually the color green pops in our minds, and okay, environmentally friendly, and yes, the environment and the earth, which is fundamental and crucial for future generations, as well as economic development. So how are we going to make a living, and also social impact, things like health, mental and physical. So social development in general. And when we talk about ethics, then behavior and conduct, not trying to be philosophical here, but at least the decisions that we make, how do we care about those decisions, and how do we know the impact those decisions make in others, and decisions as, well, let's call it small, but it's like a day-to-day decision, such as purchases and what to buy, for example. So with that in mind, is that ARM developed the Fairmined standard that is made up of a long list of benefits, as it says right here, and benefits and requirements for these organizations to obtain a certification. And it is a certification that it's not that we say you are certified, is that we involve third-party auditors that helps us out with these certification processes. And the main pillars of that Fairmined standard is, as you can see on the presentation, environmental protection, of course, but also organizational development, in the sense of, if you are a mining organization, then you have to be legal and you have to be organized and not informal. And also that you're doing something for social development and that you care for work conditions. Of course, this is in a nutshell, and this is a very broad document that we can always share and talk about in the future. But to talk about the Fairmined premium and that extra, yes, premium that it's paid to these mining organizations, then I can talk about that without talking about this standard and how all the actors in the supply chain are involved with it. So the supply chain, right? Yes, there are artisanal and small-scale mining organizations that got the certification. And that means that the gold coming from that extraction can be sold to suppliers around the world, but not any kind of suppliers, those that got an authorization by our organization, so that we know that they are subject to audits and that we know that they are going to respect the traceability of this gold, and that they understand the whole Fairmined standard and its purpose. And these suppliers that transform this gold into elements that all of the brands can use get this permit to sell that to brands that will eventually become licensed. That means that they will be able to source that Fairmined gold, certified gold, from these authorized suppliers, and also make claims about it. So then the traceability is there, also the claims of caring about the impact on the certified mining organizations. Now, this impact is also translated in this Fairmined premium. And yes, it exists for a reason, and we'll see some examples of how is that invested. But how do they get that premium? So most of brands, before learning about Fairmined, they wouldn't know if they have to pay the premium directly to the mine or what. So the price that the licensed brands pay for the gold they receive from the authorized suppliers, that price is all the brands will provide in terms of money, because then the suppliers are the ones in charge of giving that the price of the gold, but also the premium to the certified mining organization. So whenever a licensed brand sources gold from an authorized supplier, then they're contributing to that, because realistically speaking, all the suppliers include that premium into the price. And this is something that is very well explained in the guidelines we offer to all the brands that receive a license, and on our website as well. But then that is how the mining organizations receive that premium, through the authorized suppliers that source directly from them. And then they can invest that in different activities that we'll see in a bit. So to talk about the Fairmined premium, and in the past years, since 2014 that we launched the last version of the Fairmined standard, then you can see this behavior of the Fairmined premium paid to these certified organizations. I think we can all guess what happened in 2020, but until 2019, well, it was all about growth and impact in that way. And how do they invest in that? We put it in 3 pillars. So first is strengthening the mining organizations so they can invest in things that sometimes we take for granted, such as carts or trucks to move materials around, or meeting rooms for their operations, or signaling dams for the chemicals and where to put what. So they have to invest in different things so they can ensure that everything is done according to the Fairmined standard. Also, workers' welfare, so things as simple as helmets and boots, uniforms, and all of these things that they can invest on, but they always have to invest in that because those are resources that run out, right? So a one-time investment is not enough, so they always need to think of this. And also communities, how do they impact in communities and in the healthcare of the communities and different community programs around the region where they're located. So to be more specific about it, then we always love to share the reports and with numbers and everything. So this is the annual report for 2019, and you can all have access to it. My colleague Morgan, she's joining us as well, and she can share the link on the chat. But then it says how in 2019 this Fairmined premium was invested on. And something really important is that we also wanted to connect them with the Sustainable Development Goals by the UN, so that that gives us an idea on the goals and how does that aim to benefit the communities. Some examples. So improve, let's say, the investment in a meeting room that helped for the working conditions of the whole mining activity or the mining organization. Also, personal protective equipment. So as I said, uniforms for workers, how to ensure good working conditions in cold temperatures for the mines, for example. Also, they can invest in office furniture for the community, and desks, computers, like things that it's hard sometimes for them to get, and then thanks to this premium, they can invest in this. Things that can help them with the environmental improvement of the operations, so fumigations and campaigns to plant trees, for example. This one's really good. So there was one community that hired a tailoring teacher for women communities. So imagine this scenario in which a group of women was able to get trained on how to make the uniforms that then they will sell to the mining organization. So thinking about the community as well. And this is all thanks to the premium, for example. And different activities for the community, so supporting cultural groups, supporting children activities, or even campaigns to prevent teenage pregnancy or drug abuse. And this is all because then, thanks to this, the mining organizations becomes an actor in the social development of the communities where they are. So in terms of what's next for ARM, then there are different mining organizations, and all I said was all about the Fairmined certified mining organizations. So it is great that they were able to get up to that point, but there are still a lot of mining organizations that are looking to become certified. So ARM, as an objective in the future, would like those organizations that are getting there to also have access somehow to the gold market and being able to get these incentives to become certified and to become sustainability leaders in mining. So this is something called the Sustainable Development Programs, and this is still being worked on. But I'd say this is something that is in the future for our organization in terms of sustainability and impact for the ASM sector. So to finalize, that's why we say that every gram counts. And maybe some of you have seen this hashtag in all of our publications, because you can see it with every gram, then that can be translated into a positive impact in the premium. The premium is $4 per gram of gold. So yeah, that's something that they can invest in sustainable development for sure. I'd like to invite you to check our new website for businesses, and then you can see more information and then my contact information in case you want to learn more about this fantastic work that ARM does. And thank you so much.
Thanks, Jonathan. I think we'll open to some questions. One that often comes up is how what the mining organizations that are enrolled in and have met the certification requirements, how do they decide the way the premium is used? What are the rules within the standard that govern how the mining organization implements its premium? How free is their decision making, or how confined is their decision making?
Yes. So, well, I'd love to have like a straightforward, simple answer to that question, but it's a complex one because all of these organizations are in different locations. I mentioned Colombia, but that's also in Peru. That's also in different locations. So it always depends on what is it that they can do or allowed to do in terms of politics, geography, etc. What I can say is that ARM does have teams that are in contact, support, and in direct contact with the mining organizations, and always monitoring how is that going, because it is really important for us to report on that, and that's also in the report as well. So saying that, the simple answer to that is that we are always supporting them in the investment of that premium, and we're always in contact with them. So, but for more information to that, and I don't want to mislead with any wrong answer, then we can definitely support with more documents on.
I can maybe complete if you want.
Thanks,
so the Fairmined standard actually introduced the existence of a Fairmined Premium Committee. This Fairmined Premium Committee is formed by members of different parts of the mine. So the idea is to have a clear representation of the different publics we have in the mine. So people that work, for example, in the transformation plant, people that work in the mine itself, of course, persons of the direction. The idea is also to have the representation of what we call vulnerable groups, meaning women, sometimes some specific ethnic communities as well, persons that can be affected by the activities of the mines. So to have really a committee formed by all that person, and all together they are working on a plan. They are identifying priorities for the mines. The idea is to identify operational priorities, but also environmental priorities, social, etc., and to define a plan of action and a plan of investment for the Fairmined Premium, right? This plan is then presented to the rest of the community. So there is a really strong work done on the governance. I don't know if governance is good in English. Yeah, I would think so. About the premium governance, right? So the idea is to have a really participative process, and our team, especially the certification and standard team, go on the field and review, for example, the meeting notes of this committee, and review that the participation is actually guaranteed for all the groups, that all the groups are able to express their need all together. What I wanted to add is that in terms of there is no obligation, for example, in the standard that would say, let's say, for example, you need to invest 30% on environmental activities. No, this is not like that. We consider that the miners are actually able to judge and prioritize their needs, and we felt that it's important to respect these kind of processes, and our role is more to be guardian of the participation of the different group of interest within the mine, and avoid situation where, for example, the director of a mine would be taking all the decision and only decide to invest only in improving the production of the mine, and don't invest, for example, in element of security for the miners, these kind of things. So I hope that this gives you a better overview of the process. If you are interested, we also have some documents that detail a little bit more the rules that we have in place with the mining communities, and we will be happy to share with those who want to go further.
Another question I have, because we're not seeing so many come in here, some people are wondering about specific products, where they can source them, whether they're in the United States or in Europe. That's always a question. And that's for where to source ASM gold. That continues to be one of the things that everyone could do a better job communicating with each other on. But I'm also wondering what language, since you all have since Fairmined, you have now licensees all over the world participating in the program. Have you identified talking points or, conversations that jewelers have had with their customers that are being reported back as being especially successful or useful? Are there certain messages that resonate more with, what either in a kind of an online business SEO kind of environment where people are searching for search terms, or, in the sales, in the verbal sales aspect of things? There are different points of view. So I'm curious from your perspective, from Fairmind's perspective, what have you heard from people?
Of course, and is, well, very related to the concepts and the terms I shared when I started. So, for example, more people are looking online for ethical rings or sustainable rings, wedding bands, sustainable jewelry. Maybe not like knowing exactly what does that mean in terms of jewelry. So what is sustainable? What is ethical? And that's where we all have to be very careful with the claims we make. So if we sell, I don't know, if we say this is all recycled gold or this is all ASM gold, what does that mean? If I'm going to say, is that sustainable, then why, right? So there's definitely a rise in consumers' interest in these topics, and now it's our responsibility to share that knowledge and share that education. But for sure, it's trend that is here to stay, and also the trend of caring for others. So, and actually there's a blog about it on our website. So asking about the origin is really important. So who made this, and now they're taking it to who mined this, right? And after the pandemic, caring about others and caring about the welfare of others has been also something really important.
Thanks, Jonathan. Saskia, do you want to, it looks like you have an idea that it's all available to us. It's a matter of using it, maybe. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, you're on mute. Saskia.
There you go. Sorry. Yeah, so basically, I mean, I haven't been a Fairmined licensee for very long, since 2018. And, but I find their website is incredibly useful. Their newsletters that we get is so informative. We have access to everything. They even have a platform on Google Drive, which we can access as Fairmined licensees, where we can use the logos, the banners for social media. I even print them out, put them in my workshop so customers can see it. I've got my big COVID Perspex screen in between me and the customers, so I've stuck it on there, so it's at their level. They can read about it. The jewelry that I have on display, which is Fairmined, I will put a Fairmined card, which I've also printed off from their website. And my business cards also, I always stick a business card in with my jewelry. And obviously then I also stick in a little card from Fairmined. I've actually set it up and said my gold comes from, and I actually fill in the mine where the gold is coming from, which mine it is. If it's Oro Puno, or, you know, if it's the Colombian or the Peruvian one, I always write the country and the name of the mine on it. So the customers are welcome to go and have a look. And I've had people go, oh, I visited Peru, I was there, if I, you know, so, or they visited the area, but they didn't know there was a gold mine there. And so they get really excited about that. So there's a huge amount of information on their website that we can use, so we don't have to feel lost. I've done not so much copy paste, but I have kind of taken it from their website and put it on my website to explain what Fairmined is. They've even launched a video which is informative and tells people what it is. I've put that on my website, so customers immediately see it on my homepage. You know, it's all there for us to use. And if you have questions, I mean, previously I was in contact a lot with Connie, and I actually I got the chance to meet her when she was in Munich last year, when I joined the Fairmined workshop day, and that's where I met Anna as well. No, hang on. No, I didn't. That's where I met other jewelers from the UK and from Amsterdam, and it was just really, really good community, and the fact that we could talk about these things, and they're really available as well, Fairmined. I saw one of the jewelers in the chat saying, oh, I'm not sure about being Fairmined because it's so expensive. But the thing is, just become a licensee. You know, you can start with buying the Fairmined silver, and just starting with that. You don't have to buy massive quantity. You just propose it to your customer, say, look, I'm Fairmined. This is what it means to be Fairmined. This is what I do for normal gold or recycled gold or whatever the other thing you use. And you give both I always put both quotes in my quotes to my customers, and you'd be surprised how many of them go, I want Fairmined, because they look up at the bottom of my quotes that I write out. I always have what recycled gold, recycled precious metals means. I also have the explanation of what it means to be Fairmined ecological, because I only buy Fairmined eco gold. I don't give my customers the option between the two Fairmined golds. It's only ecological. So I just put the explanation of that. And in the end, it's the customers. I've informed them. In the end, it's their choice to what they believe in. They want their jewelry to come from most. And I'm always happy when they choose Fairmined ecological gold. So I think that's, yeah, I think that's kind of it.
There's
Oh.
one, I think we can go to this and then we're going to shift topics a little bit, but Elena is asking, I'll just read the question. Share your experience about only selling eco Fairmined and addressing the price point, and how do you manage that?
I don't address the price quote, the price. I give them the quote, and that's what it is. And usually the customer goes, well, I understand, you know, it's about fair wage, it's about gender equality, it's about the fact that the mines around all the ecosystem, the fauna and flora get supported and replanted. And so because I've given all the info, I don't have to justify the price. That's what it is to be Fairmined. If you want to pay that, and if that's what you want to do, then that's it. They don't question it. And maybe because I don't give them that choice, maybe because I don't say, well, this is Fairmined and this is Fairmined Gold and this is recycled. Like I said, it's a tiny sentence. What recycled, where my recycled sources come from and where my Fairmined Eco comes from and what it means. It's one short or two short sentences at the bottom of my quotes, which I send. It's also on my invoices. So, and like I said, I've got that little note about what is Fairmined Gold, ecological gold. I've got that on my Perspex screen, so they can read it when they come into my workshop immediately during the discussions when we're talking about having commissions made. And I don't justify the price. That is what it is. And if they wanted to pay that price, great. It doesn't really do anything else. I don't really feel that I should justify it. It's self-explanatory. I've explained it all on my website. I've got the little note in my workshop. So in the end, they're informed and they know that they're going to pay more for Fairmined ecological gold, and it's a choice. I hope that answers your question, Elena.
Hi, thank you, Saskia. Yes, I wanted to hear a little bit more about your experience doing it, because I'm planning to do exactly the same. So thank you very much. It's nice to hear that people are really, you know, that they accept it and they don't really question it that much once you explain all the facts.
Mm-hmm. I think it would
People
be really
actually source. Oh, sorry. People actually come to me in Belgium. There's only about 10 of us who are Fairmined licensees, but they come to me because they said, your website is what we're looking for. And we're coming to you specifically for Fairmined ecological gold. Some people are even that specific about wanting Fairmined ecological gold that they go, well, I can't afford the 18. Can you make up the price quote for me in 14 karat? Sure, not a problem. So people who really want it will pay for it. Thank you. Sorry, Christina.
No, thank you, Saskia. I think you shared a lot of information that was really helpful to people on the call. And just to clarify, you have a bespoke jewelry business. Basically, you don't produce a line, you produce what the customer want. They come to you, they want a piece of jewelry, you make them the jewelry. So we're well aware, you know, in this space that some business models it's really easy in a way. Like Saskia, your model is a really easy way to bring the Fairmined in. Some of you are discussing, you know, when you're producing a line, sometimes you run into some different kinds of challenges and you have a different sales challenge. So maybe in the future we can talk about people that have had success in that space, because everyone is kind of working through those in different ways. For right now, though, to keep us going on time, I'd like to share with you the study that Maggie and I commissioned from MVEye Marketing. And I'm going to share my screen and just go through a couple of slides with you, because this all fits into the bigger picture on how we collectively collaborate to support the people that we'd like to support. So allow me to share my screen here. And let's see. No, this is good. Okay. You're going to see what's coming up, but that will help me also skip over the things that aren't necessary to cover. Oops. So again, I just wanted to mention that this is the first time that we're aware of that this was done, basically, that this research was conducted. And the idea was to reach out to, in this case, we were able to reach out to US consumers. And we, in the future, we would love to be able to do a similar survey in Europe. So those of you that are Fairmined licensees in Europe, if you want to start to put your feelers out for potential sponsors that would be willing to support that study, we'd be happy to help facilitate it actually happening. I'm gonna have to jump a slide because I just forgot the number. So we surveyed 1,015, it was actually much more than 1,015 people. At various points along the survey, people were eliminated from the process, depending on the way that they've responded to the initial questions. So MVEye Marketing has assured us that, based on this feedback and the way that their system works, this was really a good sign of the level of engagement that we were going for on this one. So you can see some of the basic demographics. Some of the highlights were, and let me give you the basic structure of the survey. So initially they were given really kind of general questions, not much information, but it was the kind of survey that as the people engaged and stayed with it, they were provided with more and more and more information about gold, about where gold comes from, about how it's mined, details about how it's mined, large scale, small scale, artisanal. What are some of the issues associated with it? So what are some of the benefits associated with it? So we looked at all those different things and we progressively educated the consumer. And this is one of the big points we would like all of you to take away from this. Rather than getting caught up so much sometimes in this pricing debate of what's going to be the perfect optimal price for the market for all ASM gold period. Instead, we're realizing that consumers, when they are given the information, they are willing to support it. And they are concerned about the issues and they are concerned about people. So very interesting for those of us on the call right now is the fact that of these 1,015 participants. This gives you a sense of what their income level is. They had to have purchased jewelry within the last 6 months. They had to have purchased gold jewelry within the last 6 months at like what was it, like $300 or more level. What's interesting here is you are all independent jewelers. From the research, it revealed that the majority of people are buying from large chain stores, and the ones that are shopping from independents, as well as kind of custom online things, they tend to be higher end customers with higher income levels. So when you're thinking about your own marketing and who you're reaching out to with some of this, those are the kinds of things that you should keep in mind. What was really interesting, these are just some general statistics about the kinds of metals and whether it's gold with diamonds or whether it's just gold material, the kinds of things that they're interested in. The breakdown throughout this study across men and women was really interesting. When it came down to it, these top things, design or style, the price, what the material is made with, meaning is it all gold? Is it gold with diamonds? Is it silver, et cetera? Those were the top things that influence their decision-making. You'll see that the social, environmental, sustainability claim thing was actually much further down the list. So you're luring them in, not to use that word, but you're serving your customers with your design, right? And they get that added bonus later if you're following up. However, as the survey continued, this was still at the beginning. So as the survey continued, we were able to see more of an influence of that information on customers, that the information that they were learning about mining was starting to change their opinion about what they might purchase. So the difference between men and women was really interesting here. And the folks at MVEye have decades and decades of experience doing this market research. They used to have their own retail stores and are involved in the industry in a different way than most of us are here on the phone. And they described that the woman will come into the store or shop online looking for a particular brand, a particular design, a particular style. Meanwhile, if she's there with, and this was a very gendered, we're in a much more gender fluid period, but the way that this survey and this research was done is still very gendered and polarizing. So my apologies for that. That is the reality of the way this research is being conducted at the moment, not our preference. But the description was that men want to read more when they're in the stores. They're not necessarily evaluating the jewelry that they're looking at that they might be buying for their partner or their spouse or their daughter or whatever. They're using written information to help them make the decision rather than relying as much on style. Given that most of us, the majority of us on these calls are women, we found this to be really just a bit flabbergasting, a bit frustrating, that so that women weren't as considerate necessarily of the information about where their materials come from in their jewelry. And the folks at MVEye were saying that has a lot to do with the fact that they're shopping by design, not necessarily considering these topics. Fortunately, the younger generation is moving into interest in these spaces, in this information. And here's where, we're optimistic. It's always that younger women are more considerate of these various issues. This was one that surprised us a little bit, and we have, in some ways, mixed feelings or mixed information about this. But white gold, I don't know if all of the designers are experiencing this, but white gold is the most popular color of gold based on the results in this survey. And that is in direct contrast with all of the marketing materials for ASM Gold, really, right? Right now, it's that rich yellow. It's that beautiful kind of original material that jewelers love to work with, right? White gold is not as fun to work with as a material. And then to contrast that, we got some information about how white gold is then refined later. So if you're thinking about the future use of your material, that eventually someone may not want that piece anymore, they would recycle it, that the white gold alloys are a little bit more difficult on the refining side. So these different things to take into consideration at the same time. Generally, people just weren't well informed about where gold is even mined. We polled their knowledge about mercury. So we have this contrast where they're aware that it is dangerous, and then at the same time, there were a few respondents that said it's safe to handle in your hand, right? So there's still room for learning and education. Most people still are unaware of what artisanal gold even is. So I think that means for us that if you think people are going to be coming to your store looking for artisanal gold, it's probably not so much the case. But once they're there with you, because they love your design, because they love your pieces, that added thing, they are willing to hear the information about where the gold came from, how it benefited people, etc. But they're not necessarily coming to you because that's what you're offering. let's leave that. I don't want to take too long on this presentation. We wanted to add that there is definitely concern about pollution generated at mine sites. What are the working conditions like? How about the land rights? That's an ongoing issue with mining in general. I'm just going to keep going here. Then we asked, after people were educated about some of those issues, then we asked them which ones were the most significant to them, which was the most important to them. Go for it, Maggie. I'm not seeing the questions.
I think
right now.
slide 23 is pretty interesting. Sorry, I'm now. So once, as Christina said, there were different moments of education throughout this survey. So the survey taker was becoming more informed about artisanal and small scale gold throughout the process. And then towards the end of it, when they were asked this question again of what would you purchase or request, a large portion said they would request jewelry made with ASM certified responsible gold. So this is just a big takeaway, and it's something that's come up in a lot of our conversations about artisanal gold, but there's this need for us as concerned members of the jewelry industry to develop clear messaging and to educate consumers further. So there are a couple different ways that we're exploring that, and we can talk about that in just a moment, but it gives some hope there that, once we put in these efforts towards education and communicating on what exactly artisanal gold is, consumers are interested in it. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a great summary. Does anyone have any questions before we move on? I'm opening the chat now. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We had a comment from a few people about the, customers' desire for white gold, yellow gold, rose gold. Saskia is saying that rose gold is what she's being asked for these days. Aaron made an interesting observation in terms of the mainstream jewelry industry seeking out white gold, but maybe not for those who seek out independent designers. And Lisa wants us to know that yellow gold is back, which I know I've seen a lot of as well these days. So, okay, and Brandy's asking about the demographics of the study.
Yeah, so Brandy, I know that they didn't, for this particular study, we didn't gather a lot of information on what you're asking there, race, etc. It was limited to men and women, and yeah, they did get a little bit more information detail about income levels. They did get a little bit more information on location, where the people were that were participating. In the future, we can expand on this. Right? So we worked within the budget that we had available. How big a study can you do based on, with the funding that you have? And thanks to Rio Grande and ARM that we were able to do as much as we were able to do. Yes, it was based in the United States. And if anyone wants the actual report from the study, feel free to send us an email and we'll be able to send you some information. We have some discount codes that we can offer, but send us your email if you're interested and we can follow up with the report if you'd like the full thing. Thanks.
Okay. So I think we'll turn to Ana Maria Sierra, if you're ready, Ana. We were hoping to have Roberto Alvarez from Better Without Mercury on the call today to give some updates. Unfortunately, some things have come up on that end, so he may join, before the call ends today. But if we don't hear from him, we'll be sure to include him in a future session so you all can find out about the great work they're doing. Hey, Anna, how are you?
Hi, how are you all? How good to be here. I'll share with you some updates.
Yes.
Also waiting for Roberto to enter the call. If he enters, then we can switch, because I think it's really important that we have time to hear him. I'm going to share the screen. Okay. Okay, so we have like 3 good news, 2 small, 1 a little longer. Are you seeing the screen?
Yep.
Let me see, how can I take the images out of here? I'm not very fluent in these.
I think if you hit the present button on the top right.
Yeah, there we are. Okay. Okay, so I'll speak to you about Joyería para el Cambio, it's a new webinar, then about Talking Hands, and then briefly, or maybe before that, about Masari, which is a new brand that a colleague is launching in LA tomorrow. It's a Fairmined Gold brand, and Talking Hands, the documentary. So it's in Spanish because this new space to speak about ethical jewelry in Spanish. We found that there's an important call to action to be made in the speaking Spanish countries, not only Latin America and the Caribbean, but also Spain. Thanks to Christina and to Morgan, we got in contact to Origen, which is a colectivo. It's a group of 8 jewelers that are already doing some work in Spain. And they're discussing to see if they join us in terms of designing the speaking points and inviting different actors in order to share the space. Save the date. The first one is May the 6th at 10 a.m. We choose 10 a.m. because it's a good time to be able to go to both sides of the ocean. And the initiative was born thanks to Ana from Modelan, Maca, which is Camilo Gonzalez, is a Fairmined licensee, and Karina Vega from Café Joyeros. We already did an interesting alliance with Global Compound from Colombia, the UN arm that works together with companies, and they're supporting us so we can make this a safe space and any data that is shared and no hacking and so on. What is new to this space? We are involving innovation and, of course, sustainability for well-being. It will be a global space. We want to share, learn, discover, and promote change. We are inviting from the origin. Remember that in Latin America, many countries produce gold. There's a lot of problems for the communities and the environment because of illicit gold mining. And there's also precious gems. We want it to be an open, involving, interdisciplinary and dynamic talk about ethic and jewelry. We want to propel change, and it'll be non-profit. That is an agreement. How do we enrich the other spaces that there might be? We speak Spanish. From now, we speak South American Spanish, but we're willing to join our colleagues from Spain and other places from the earth. We speak from the territory of the origin and of gold, and in Colombia in particular of emeralds. We involve the concept of innovation for social change. So we have already talked to experts in order to work in traceability, social models, and so on. And we want to include different voices, different disciplines. We are inviting the people that are working in large mining, the regulators, the authorities, and so on. So you're all welcome. It'll be in May 6th, 10 a.m. We will send, of course, Christina, you the information, and Jonathan and Morgan, so you can help us invite others. And we're open to listen about topics, questions. I mean, we're here to collaborate and to work together. This one is a small news, and Suleika Aziz, which is a young human rights lawyer, a wonderful girl, contacted us thanks to Ethical Metals Meets, and we are partnering together, exploring, doing some prototypes. She's launching tomorrow. So I wanted to let you know she has done an incredible work. And we hope very much that this becomes like one of these partnerships that we are dreaming, because some of these jewels might be handmade by the Chocó jewelers. And we want to introduce, and we're very proud to tell you that we're supporting Talking Hands. You know, the values path is unique. And when you look for values, you find people that is also looking for the same values. In this work that I'm doing at MVEye, looking to bring wellness to the jewelers and the artisanal ancestral miners in all these geographical area of the Chocó, I found Camilo Gomez. Camilo Gomez is working in Talking Hands. This is a documentary that is enhancing and bringing awareness about the livelihoods of the gold panning and the jewelers from Chocó, and how the illicit mining is vanishing this unique ancestral heritage that they have. This is, for example, Juancho, and this, when a jeweler puts all the jewelry he has or she has on, you say embambado, that means power. I mean, the cultural meanings of jewelry in that region are totally different to the ones we have. It doesn't mean to be wealthy, it means to be powerful. Of course, they use their jewelry and they bring it to the shops whenever they need cash, but then they pick it up. This is like a detail. These are the kind of unique images you will get in this documentary, to see all these processes, the ancestral techniques that they use. This is one of the jewels. And Chocó, you know, it's a jewel itself, a natural jewel. It is one of the 14 hotspots in the world. And unfortunately, a hotspot is not only that there is a lot of species, and for example, all this area that comes until the Ecuador and from Panama, it has more than 2,000 species of fauna and flora. But the other reason to become a hotspot is that 70% of it is endangered. That means that this is one of the places of the earth that it's really an emergency to preserve. Look, this is what the illicit gold mechanized mining is making. This is unfortunately, and I heard in all these talks that there is somebody who says that it's like re-enslaving people. Of course, they don't like to be called like that. It's irrespectful. But when I heard it, I say, my goodness, imagine you are trapped between the lack of opportunities, and in front of you, there's this machine taking out gold. And you know that if you follow the machine, you have the opportunity to get more gold than if you go and pan by yourself. The problem is that this is all contaminated with mercury. These daily scenes that used to be usual, now they have to do pacts, you know, they have to talk to the machines upstream and say, okay, stop digging because we have to do laundry for the rivers to be a little more clear. These rivers used to be transparent. And so for these, to try to bring them to this unique way of living, this is 7. He's wonderful. He's always laughing. Don't imagine that these people is sad and crying. I mean, they have a unique life. They keep on working. Sometimes the only way they can work is with mercury contaminated gold. The work we do with them is to send them clean materials in order to produce their jewels. This is one of the works they did. That is, all this material has been produced by Camilo. There it says the champion. It's not usual to have women doing jewelry in Chocó. It's more of a male type of work. They're more into panning. So she's really special. And he's Camilo. Camilo's an anthropologist. He studied at 2 well-known universities in Canada. I have the names here, I'm sorry. And he did the whole more than 52 hours shooting and 4 trips and 45 days in the jungle and in the towns. by himself with a little support from some institutions. So what we're aiming right now, we're launching today a GoFundMe campaign. I will put it in the chat later on. And we are willing for you to help us to distribute it in Canada and in the US to all your friends that work in conservation, sustainability, responsible entrepreneurs, and of course, all your colleagues, friends, and family. The aim is to raise $8,000, but learning about GoFundMe a little, they recommend that you should not go for your complete goal. So you will see that it is 10,000. And this, what you're seeing here, that was designed by Juana Mendez, and it's close to what I have with me. These are called baskets. They are handmade filigree, and there's some rewards for the donations. So for anyone who's willing to give $100 or more, we can discuss. There are silver, these will be upcycled X-ray plates, silver, but the gold ones will be Fairmined Gold. And we might be lucky and get some Fairmined silver and send them to you in Fairmined silver. So how can each one of you help? Spread the GoFundMe link with your colleagues, friends, and family. Send me, I'll put down my email, institutional contacts that you think might help us sponsor or donate. And of course, if you can and if you want, donate for the documentary. That is the news we had. What we hope is to be able to bring the livelihoods back to the way they used to live around the river. Thank you very much. One important thing, Camilo, same as the work I'm doing now, was inspired by Juana Mendez's research. And Juana Mendez's book is already out. I'll send Christina the link so she can, you're allowed to distribute it. I'll look for it to see if I can put it in the chat.
We have it on,
We've
got it
Sons
ready.
of God. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you so much, Anna. That's really exciting
I
to
stop?
see and so beautiful.
Can you stop me from sharing the because I always have trouble in stopping the sharing the link. Can you do it from there? Yeah, I think I did.
Okay. So we will have Juana Mendez on a future session to share some more information about her work in Choco. Her book has just been released in Spanish, and there are plans to release a version of it in English. In the meantime, if you'd like the Spanish version, we've just put the PDF in the chat box there.
That was excellent. That I just made a note, Anna, to make sure that your project is thoroughly involved in the gold campaign that Amazon Aid Foundation is doing,
Right.
and the Cleaner Gold Network in particular. Hopefully getting a presentation from you for that. The next meeting that the network will have will be in June. We don't have the date set yet, but you'll have some more time to finesse, and hopefully some donations will have come in for the
Great,
film.
thank you
and
very much.
yeah, excellent.
Okay, I'm just sharing all those links with the group.
Okay.
Yeah, so on that note, Christina, do you want to share a little bit about the Cleaner Gold Network?
I'd love to. I first was curious though if anyone had any questions or comments. You just got blasted with a bunch of information that's inspiring. I'm curious if you have if anyone wants to pop on and comment or ask. No pressure though, just scanning the group. Okay. So I'm happy to share some information. If anyone was on I think several of you were actually on the launch of the Amazon Aid's Cleaner Gold Network. If you could let me know in the chat, that would be helpful. we had a really good turnout for that. I've gotten some really interesting feedback that I'd love to bounce off of all of you for the industry. But if you haven't heard about it, if you go to the Amazon Aid Foundation website, one of the main projects is the Gold Campaign. And Christina T. Miller Consulting is working with the Amazon Aid Foundation on this particular part of their work. And the film, I think most of you have seen it by now, River of Gold, is going to be released next month all over Latin America through the media channel Globo. And it's also going to be available, we think, on platforms like Netflix in the future. So in a way, the fact that the River of Gold film is being launched is an alert to all of us that are working on reshaping artisanal gold mining for the better, trying to work to improve lives of artisanal miners, and are making a conscious effort to produce jewelry in a way where you know where your materials come from. You can explain the story. Because of that, my child is distracting me like crazy. Today is a day off of school. Sorry, Raya, I'm sorry, you need to step away. Thank you. Sorry about that. Very real. So because the film is like ready to explode on the international scene, it means that more people are going to be aware, more people are going to be looking for their alternatives. They're going to be wondering like, well, what do I do now? What's my responsibility in all of this? When it comes to the Amazon, your responsibility includes, eating less beef. Your responsibility includes being aware of where lumber and building materials are coming from because of the agriculture. But gold has a huge impact there. And so the Cleaner Gold Network is a way for all of us to kind of coordinate with each other some of these great initiatives that are happening. The really challenging thing that I'd love to bounce some ideas off of with you is that it's complicated in Brazil in particular. And I'm sure the Alliance for Responsible Mining, the folks that are on from ARM, might have some additional bits of information to share here. But with that campaign, on one hand, the conversation is very much that the majority, many artisanal miners that are in the Amazon have been driven there out of poverty. So some of the most poor people from the high mountain regions in the Andes, for example, in Peru, in Madre Dios, come out of the mountain looking for work. Gold seems like a way that they could earn a living. Sometimes they are quickly in situations where they're in forced labor environments. So this is very different than, if Roberto joins us and the miners that ARM can speak to, it's a very different attitude that goes into mining by artisanal miners in that space compared to, what we're talking about in the Amazon. At the same time, we have in the country of Brazil, you have indigenous groups where artisanal miners are going in illegally and mining on the land of indigenous peoples without their permission, without their signaling of permission. And they're even attacking indigenous people, right? So you see with me, like we have this communication challenge, and we have this real reality where we have to say one thing about protecting the indigenous people, of course, and then on the other hand, we're continuing to pursue all of this hard work that everyone's doing to improve the way miners are practicing their trade. So we'll keep you in touch regarding the Cleaner Gold campaign, but I'm wondering if you all have any perspectives or interesting ways that we might improve the way that we can talk about both of those situations at the same time, especially as we move these initiatives and these materials more into a consumer space where we have to oversimplify the message to such a degree that it almost hurts those of us that are really trying to understand the nuance, right? So we've got really bad situation. We have the desire for improvement. We have consumer facing situation coming on. Everything is very complicated, and yet it has to be presented in the most simple way possible. Ideas? I can see wheels turning. It's an opportunity to just chat about it a little bit.
I have a question. How do you like overcome the corruption in that space? Like, even if we want to help and there's consumer interest in getting cleaner gold, there's also like all these other illicit forces and also the corrupt governments that are not really like willing to help. So I think that's like a huge obstacle. How do we work around that? Like, is there anyone like from an institutional you know, representation willing to do something about this? That's like my first thought.
Thanks, Alina. And it's important to point that out because we often bump up against these spaces where, you know, there are the things we can do and influence, and then there are the things that we can't influence. And necessarily it takes a whole other, we have these overlapping circles, right, of control over the situation. We all happen to come together over gold, right, and over the need to protect the planet, but we don't influence. We can think we influence everything, but we really don't. We have a limited sphere of influence. So Amazon Aid Foundation is not going on this adventure alone. It's very much how to, they're working with several organizations in Brazil. They're working with several organizations in Peru. Outreach to the Alliance for Responsible Mining. I mean, Morgan and Jonathan could talk more to us about this, I'm sure, you know, how to deal with government relationships in tricky situations. I'm also aware that there is kind of global policy that's evolving around a global call to preserve parts of the planet in the face of climate change, right? That the preservation of areas of land is part of that process. I've also seen evolving in our own regulatory structure, there are a few different bits of policy in US policy that are trying to look at what about legal, how do we address the trade of materials, because gold isn't regulated in that same way. So could gold be added to a similar customs or trade-based legal structure? But I only have a piece of the information right now. We could do a whole other living room session to really unpack that in more detail. And we'd love to do that with you all.
Yeah, I will just add that that recognition of the need to engage the like every type of stakeholder who touches this issue is part of this campaign, and it's really kind of how this network came to be, is recognizing that need. So I'll just briefly share a graphic of the Cleaner Gold Network so you can get an idea, but this network is working to bring together, you know, environmental organizations, the financial sector, people working directly with the gold supply chain, governments in Latin America and the US, indigenous groups, and many more. So let me just briefly share this with you guys so you can get a sense of this graphic. And so this network has 3 focus areas. One focus area is on policy and legislation. Another one is on media and consumer awareness. And the other one is the jewelry industry. So I shared a link a little bit earlier with a sign-up form. Stop that. With a sign-up form, if you'd like to be part of any of those working groups, either, you know, helping to develop that kind of consumer messaging or working specifically with the jewelry industry side of that. So I'll share that again if anyone's interested, but thank you for that question. We know we have to really try to bring in as many people as possible into this effort.
Oh, Morgan, go ahead.
Yeah, no. Since you you call us to tell a little bit more about these subjects. Well, I think these are really key subjects for us as an NGO, and since the beginning, ARM have been really working to build this kind of networks where government and also, well, local groups are working together and can dialogue. I think this is really important if we want to make things happen and that the sector is changing, etc., etc. In Brazil, concerning Brazil, it's for us, it's a new country. We are actually looking to also work in Brazil. We have one project that we hope to be able to start soon, but with the whole pandemic, actually everything was stopped. But there is some miners that are ready to also start with responsible mining. So we need to, well, first understand better the situation in the country, because, well, as you know, the situation in Brazil is really difficult in terms of political situation right now, and the mining subject is key for the country. So we have been trying to develop some contact with the government in Brazil, and especially the institution in charge of mining and gold trading, but it's really hard to find some key answers and a real will to change things right now. I think for the current president, this is not a problem to actually destroy the Amazon. So it's a bit difficult to find some help there. But I think we are going, in a good direction with this kind of networks you're building, and the type of connection we are also developing. As for corruption, this is of course a key question, and for us as an NGO, it's very important to understand where we are actually working with which kind of mining organization we are also working. So this is one of the key things we do when we start to work with a community, to also do some background check and understand who we are dealing with, and also understand what is actually happening in the same government, right? Because we know that corruption can be at different levels. So try to take the more steps we can take to ensure that the miners are not related to corruption cases, and the gold traders involved in the supply chains are also clean from this kind of activities. But it's a permanent job actually to try to, because it's a really very complex sector. But yeah,
it is. We'd like to give Anna, Sierra, you have another comment that you'd like to make. Thanks, Morgan. I appreciate you coming on the spot. Thank you.
Just a tiny and very important one. I was so happy to tell you all about Talking Hands that I forgot a very important thing. Talking Hands is in the post-production phase. Camilo is in Ottawa editing. That's why we need to fundraise in order for him to stay there and doesn't need to work in anything else. And once he's expecting to finish by December this year, and then he will go for the festivals in order to distribute the film. I'm sorry, it was really important.
Oh, that's okay. So we can expect that we would be able to view that around December.
Hopefully, yes. If
Maybe
we
we
reach
can
the
organize
goal,
it.
then he can stay there editing. Yes, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, we are at the end of our time, but I just want to say thank you so much to Jonathan, Anna, and Morgan for all coming on and speaking with us today. If anyone has any last minute questions, feel free to put that in the chat. Otherwise, again, oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Stuart Poole, I don't want to put you on the spot if you are off doing other things and listening to this in the background. But I'm just going to look, and if you're hearing me and you'd like to unmute, oh, you unmuted. Hey, it worked. Can you really briefly, because we haven't been able to connect on this yet, and I think some folks that are based here in the US might be interested in the way and we could bring this up at another session in the future, but can you briefly describe the Fair Luxury Group in Europe and the way that you are communicating via the pledge, as a way to invite people to get started? Because we also have a student on this conversation today.
Okay, well, the quickest thing I can probably do is put the link into the chat to start with.
Thanks.
So that will tell you all about the pledge. So in 30 seconds or less, Fair Luxury is a community of people in the jewelry industry. So predominantly designer makers, but also people like myself, so suppliers, academics, and other people who just have an interest in all kinds of responsible sourcing, traceable supply chains, all of the great things that you've been talking about today. And we just try to bring people together to share information, to put on events like this, webinars. In better times, we've got on conferences, and just bringing people together, like I say, getting that information out there so that we can all share and learn from each other and collaborate, and hopefully become greater than the sum of our parts. So that's Fair Luxury. The pledge itself is an extension of that, and it's just a way of getting people together to work on improvements in their business, and so, or in their jewelry practice, or in whatever they happen to be doing. So it can be something really tiny. It can be something about I'm just going to improve my recycling, or I'm just going to use a different type of material in my jewelry making, or it can be something a little bit more ambitious. And for example, myself and a couple of others have taken on the goal of becoming B Corps. So that's a little bit more. There's a little bit more to it, but it's mainly about just picking something and taking a step forward in some way that is meaningful to you, to your business, or to your particular activity. But being able to share that with other people, and obviously making a bit more of a public commitment to doing that. So that's one part of it, but also just having that support from other people within the Fair Luxury community. So that's what we're doing. Please have a look at the website. You can contact me. I'll put my email address in the chat as well. And if you have any questions about any of that, you can contact me, I'm sure, and I'll be happy to help.
Thanks, Stuart. Great to hear your voice, and thanks for sharing that. Appreciate it. We're always looking for ways, it's one of the most difficult things to signal your commitment in a collective way that others can recognize and appreciate. And we don't tear each other apart going into this group can't afford to be divided. If that makes any sense. So that's the note I would like to leave on. Like with this group, we are hyper intellectual about sourcing, hyper intellectual about our marketing, hyper intellectual about kind of all of these decisions that we're making in our business. And that can lead to, I'm going to go down this path and explore this thing, and it brings a new idea, we all need to be doing that, but to keep moving forward in kind of a responsible jewelry direction, where this hyper dedication to artisanal miners, to doing the best that one possibly can in how your studio works, how your business works, etc. We have to be moving forward together. And I like the way the pledge offers just it's umbrella. It's a way to show a general commitment, and it keeps people moving in a general direction without factions, right? Without it breaking apart into these different things. So thanks for sharing that. We're at time. Maggie, do you have any last comments?
Nope, just thank you for everyone who showed up today, and thanks for keeping these conversations going.
Anna, we'll come back. That question sort of where, I don't know if you can all tell, like for Anna Moka's point that just came in the chat, but we're trying to move in this collective direction where we're doing more than just signaling, right? There are all these various fronts now that we're working on this, from consumer marketing to making sure that the voices are heard everywhere they can possibly be heard, that the people most impacted by our sourcing are heard. They're heard in public spaces. This is an incredible opportunity that's arisen oddly during COVID. The fact that we can, if we have an internet connection, we can join. It has enabled us to bring voices from afar into public realms in a really significant way. So all of this is working. We were on an interview meeting with a vendor earlier this morning and learned that they really hadn't started getting involved in sustainability and responsible sourcing until the Jewelry Industry Summit happened in New York the first year that it happened, right? And in the webinar that happened on diamonds the other day was the first time that that small percentage of diamonds that we really don't know where they came from were humanized. That excuse that's given, oh, 98% of the diamonds, that's fine. Yeah, but that 1 to 2% that's still in the market is actually really destructive and hurting people. But the people that are buying and selling those stones, they're moving these objects, these materials, they're not necessarily considering the people. So every one of these little steps makes a difference to turn the light bulb on for someone, show them an opportunity, provide a bit of a pathway to get more involved. And we're still early. It's still early. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. It's always fun. See you next month.
You.
Yeah, have a good weekend. See you all.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.